On the mic, we have Andrew Temte, an executive, a musician, an educator, and a mentor to many in the business community. We discuss his new book, Balancing Act, what inspired the book, what sets it apart, reader takeaways, leadership during COVID, and playing music. We find out what's next for this global leader and where people can pick up the book. You can find more conversations on our website, lacrosselocal.com. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is Lacrosse Local.
My name's Andy Temte. I was born on Cameron Avenue in La Crosse, Wisconsin, right between 10th and 11th Street there by Aquinas High School. So born and raised here in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Spent 7 years of my life down in Iowa City, getting a master's and PhD in finance from the University of Iowa. So that's literally the only time that my wife and I have spent away from La Crosse. While we were down in Iowa City, built a business called the Swayzer Study Program for the CFA exams, ultimately moved that business back up here to La Crosse. So my journey into leadership was very much aligned with what you call the accidental managers syndrome, where I've got a lot of technical skill that I built up over the years and then started a business and all of a sudden was managing people, but with no training in leadership or management.
So you also have a new book called Balancing Act. What kind of inspired that? You know, you already started with kind of your past and growing up in La Crosse and your process back here, but what inspired the book?
So back in 2016, 2017, we were in the throes of coming out of the Great Recession of 08, 09, and leadership responsibilities were increasing exponentially. It kind of dawned on me that there was a gap in the market of leadership books and that focused on mid-level senior executives within major companies. I wanted to write a book entitled Tales from a Mid-Level Senior Executives. The tongue is squarely in cheek there. I started writing a series of small articles, how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. And ultimately, over the course of that kind of 3.5 years of writing small snippets of individual episodes, that it really came together that the concept that I was really talking about was the balance that we strike, the balancing acts that we strike in many parts of our lives.
So you kind of talk about it there with the balancing act of different parts of your lives. What else sets this book apart? Is it easily digestible? Can anyone kind of pick it up?
The main message is for those mid-level senior executives that I talked about, but it's a very approachable piece of work. Lots of individual storytelling from episodes in my life going all the way back to when I was a child that have influenced me. Specifically, what I believe sets this book apart from literally the thousands of other business books that are out there is the concept of vulnerability. Very few leadership experts really get, naked and vulnerable in their work. They're more speaking down to you and at you versus the purpose of this book is to show that leaders are human beings. All of us need to be bringing more of our quote unquote whole selves into the world of work. The concept of authenticity really runs through this book. I've got a lot to say in this book. I've got a lot to teach. The subtitle is Teach, Coach, Mentor, and Inspire, but it's told through my own failings and my own failings that became learning opportunities that I want to pass on to others.
You referenced there, being authentic. What has been the response to the book? You kind of talk about a few things there, but what do you want readers to take away from?
Thus far, the response to the book has been really strong. The publication date's not until April 6th. We haven't formally started selling the book, but we're taking pre-orders, so we're really happy with the strong pre-orders that we've gotten. There's a concept that I introduced in the book called entropy. And, entropy is mathematical physical sciences construct that comes from the laws of thermodynamics. I don't want to scare anybody away because entropy also is a word that we all should know, that we're all in a state of falling apart. all systems fall apart over time. Everything in the physical, natural world falls apart over time. And we as human beings are in a continual state of falling apart. And we must then adopt continuous improvement practices to put it back together to reach that next best version of ourselves through and over time. So that concept of entropy, everything's falling apart, but then continuous improvement and lifelong learning to put it back together, this kind of creating a virtuous cycle of, as we're falling apart, putting ourselves back together to reach that next best version of ourselves. That's something I really want the readers to take away.
Seems like it'd be something that would be very helpful. Even now, the past year with COVID, how has your day-to-day and almost like leadership approach changed when dealing with a pandemic like we've had the past year?
Yeah, so from a leadership perspective, I've recognized that there's a real need to be calm and to be persistent and consistent, to be thoughtful and to be agile. And these are all words that I live by that are contained. The stories behind these words are contained in the book. The last word is industrious. And we live in a time, the last year has been a time of explosion of polarization. I don't want to get political on anybody here. That's not the point. But social unrest and a really, really strange election cycle, in addition to the pressure that we're all under. I sent people home on March 18th last year. Everybody thought that, this will last for a month or so, and then we'll be back at it. We'll be back in the office. And, look, I sent people home to work from home who are now permanently working from home. They've got the pressure. I don't have this challenge because my kids are 27 and 29 respectively, but some folks have 2-year-olds pulling at their leg all day, every day, trying to balance work and life and all of these societal pressures that we're under. My management style has really placed an emphasis on being the guy in the room that's helping to drive that calm and that persistence and that consistency and the agility that's necessary to make sure that we're moving forward in a constructive fashion and not letting all of these pressures spin us out of control.
Yeah, I definitely think we all need some calm in our lives. Something we always talk about on Lacrosse Local is we talk to a lot of musicians, we talk to a lot of artists that are kind of working their way through this as well. You also play for the popular band, The Remainders. Maybe a lot more people know you from there, from Moon Tunes and all the different fundraisers you guys do. How does some of those musical skills that you've learned over the past decades kind of transfer to leadership? Do you find similarities in there?
Yeah, so this is a really important point. Back to the book, Balancing Act, there's another big thread that weaves through there, which is the concept of storytelling. And the leadership skill of storytelling is woefully underrated. We need to tell the story of the businesses that we work for, the work that we're doing, the goals that we have, the North Star. Those all have to be told in very creative ways within businesses. I've just found that, my time as a musician has really helped with bringing those storytelling skills out. And it helps me tell a story in very different ways so that the story is consistent, but it gets through to more audiences because you're repeating the message over and over again to create clarity within your organization. So there's a definite tie between the musicianship and leadership.
I know this year has been a big transitional time for everyone. What's coming up for you? You have the book, but what's coming up for you? What are you excited about for 2021, 2022 even?
Yeah, well, the band has 3 shows booked for this summer. So we are really excited to get back on stage. We haven't been in front of a live audience since November of 2019.
Wow.
We are really itching to get back out there. That's one thing that I'm interested in. But from a business perspective, I'm really excited about the message that the book will send into the business community and some of the other work that we're doing around reskilling and upskilling I work on a consortium with the World Economic Forum, and they are driving what they're calling a reskilling revolution. Many in education in the world of business know that a lot of jobs are going to change over the next 10 years. There's going to be huge demand, not only for upskilling in existing roles, but total reskilling, because the job that you have today is not going to be there 3, 4, 5 years from now. So there's a lot of really interesting work going on in upskilling and reskilling that I hope to be at the cutting edge of the conversation on.
Again, this past year has really kind of built some resilience and people pivoting and changing in many different ways, and sometimes for the better. If people want to find out more, what's the best option for them? Where should they head?
Right now in pre-publication mode, you can certainly pre-order on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. The book is out on virtual store shelves. It'll be on physical store shelves on April the 6th. You can certainly go to my LinkedIn page. I've got a number of articles there and routine commentary, especially focused on education, upskilling, and reskilling. And then obviously the Facebook page for the remainders to keep track of what we're up to there.
Lacrosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at Lacrosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the Lacrosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.